Oh, I guess that's the only thing that shows I'm recording. Oh, that red dot. Make sure that red dot back on. But when I'm here, you can't tell, so other than this. So just make sure that y'all help me realize I'm actually recording. Alright, so you've got notes in front of you. I'll usually try to label stuff like this, like what chapter we're in, which day of that chapter. I think it helps a lot just to keep up with things. I don't usually put it on printouts though, so it might help you to write that on the top. So make sure you're on the side that says Introduction to Data Analysis, not the side that says two-way tables. So Introduction to Data Analysis, statistics, definition, science of data, mathematics of collection, organizing, interpreting. Basically, you hear the definition a lot. It's the collecting, organizing, and interpreting data. It is all three pieces of that. So it is how you get it, putting it together in the right way, and then presenting it. We deal with all aspects of that. We deal with an entire chapter just on how we get it. Obviously, when you think about statistics from where you guys are right now, you're thinking more of like the interpretation with like the graphs and stuff, but there's a lot of in-between process in there. A set of data consists of information about individuals. Individuals may be people, things, or animals. One thing I do want you to write there, and that second one says a set of data consists information about individuals. If the individuals are people, the definition is subjects. So like where it says individuals, I would put something that says like, quote, subjects if people. So if we are talking about, I've got all this data on different pigs. Pigs would be my individuals. I would not call the pigs subjects. But if we're talking about people, like students, and we're dealing with JLMAN students, I could call them individuals, or more specifically, I could call them subjects. It's just kind of intertwined. If they're people, they could also be called subjects. Information is organized into variables or characteristics about the individuals. So what do you collect about them? Sometimes it's going to list the individuals themselves, and sometimes it won't. Let's say we are dealing with, like, I have all your historical grades. I looked through them at the beginning of the year. So if I have a list of all your historical grades, my individuals are what? Or who? I don't care about hands, just you guys, students. Would on my list be your name? Would I have on that list, if I actually made a spreadsheet of what I'm talking about, would I put your name on there? Yeah. Yes, I would want to know what your name is with your grade, right? So your name would be a variable. That makes sense, right? But there are situations where that line, you don't write the name. So maybe it's like I am doing a study, and for legal reasons, which happens a lot, you have to kind of like remove the person's name. But I can still see this person, this was their Algebra 1 grade, this is their Algebra 2 grade, this is their pre-cal grade, and so forth. In that one, the variable wouldn't be a name because I just know that these all go together. I don't need to know the student's name. Does that make sense? So sometimes name is there and sometimes it's not. It says in the bell work example, that's what we did yesterday. So yesterday, where we started the airplane stuff, who were the individuals?
The airlines.
The two different airlines were the individuals. What were the variables initially?
It was delayed or not.
On time and delayed. So we actually had two, even though we used them both to get one thing, it had two variables there. It had on time and it had delayed. And then we talked about, it ended up throwing in another variable of the specific cities. So let's say that I am collecting data for you guys. And usually I actually do this at the beginning, but then I didn't even hardly use it last year, so I'm not going to go through the time right now. Let's say I have you fill out a Google form, and it's just these random questions that have all this data collected. Just basic questions, so I can use it to like make graphs and stuff. What are some questions that I could ask you guys to collect data to have for later? What is a question I could put on my Google form? What else? What else? not like, maybe it wouldn't be that helpful for most classes, but I'm literally just doing it like for information to make graphs and stuff. So what are some other things?
Middle school.
What did somebody say at the middle school?
As a subject.
Say it again. Favorite
Subject.
Alright, I'm gonna say one because I did this earlier. I'm gonna write algebra 2 grade because algebra 2 is technically the prereq. Even though most people come from way above that. Maybe. These are different than these two and possibly this one, depending on how we do it. How are they different? Numbers and non-numbers, right? What is a word that means numerical? Starts with a Q. Quantitative. So grade, if I put freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, obviously that's going to be not quantitative. But these are definitely quantitative. I have terrible handwriting. I'm okay with that. Sometimes I'll jot things down. If I jot something down terrible, it's usually because you already have the word in front of you. If I want something that you're seeing for the first time, I'm going to write it a little bit neater. So these are not quantitative. They can be called two things. What does it say on your paper?
Categorical.
Categorical. Sometimes you'll see it written as qualitative. Just different books. It means the same thing. It's either quantitative or not. So one thing about this is you guys think quite literally with this and you think numbers, not numbers, right? What can we do with numbers that we can't do with not numbers? Or doesn't make as much sense to do with not numbers? Math. And sensible math. And that seems very straightforward, but what is, okay, so let's say we're dealing with age. What are some math things we could do with this class's age? If I had all of your ages, what could I do with them? Mean, average, add them up, range. So think about another question I could ask you, like another bullet point right here, that I could ask you a question, and it would give all number answers, and it would make no sense to do math with it. Favorite number. That one's, you're right, but that one's a little gray for some people, and I'll explain in a second. What else? Height. Now, would it make sense to have an average height of the class? That would make a little bit more sense. There's something that all of you have and use all the time.
Cell phone number.
Would it make any sense to find the average of your cell phone number? No. So now along that line, there are two other big examples that I usually talk about. Social Security number is a very good one. What else? Student ID number, zip code, jersey number, anything like that. So if it is a number to where there is no numerical value in the number itself, I don't like thinking about it that way. I think about it as like, if you're talking about age, is 17 more than 16? Does that mean you're more than 16? Mm-hmm. Yes. If you are jersey number 88, does that mean that you are more or better than 83? No. So I like to think about it that way instead of saying, does it make sense to find numerical values of? But it means the same thing. So if there is no numerical value to the number itself, then it is considered categorical. So you might want to write something beside of where it says categorical on there and write something like zip codes, phone numbers, something like that. And whatever makes sense to you to write no numerical value or whatever. Now it says types of graphs used to display the different ones. Yeah, I could get into that. It kind of makes more sense not to explain which ones to use when until we get there. So those are just some examples: bar graphs, segmented bar graphs, pie charts. Could be with categorical, and we'll get into stuff with quantitative as well. So you've got one big thing about this class is wording. You have to be as exact as the information that I give you. You can add absolutely nothing yourselves. Thing about statistician is very literal. You have to think very literal all the time. So at the very bottom it says below some information about. It's got a couple different columns. So how many columns do we have there? 5. How many different individuals are in that set? 10. What are the individuals in this data set?
First 10 presidents.
And I would want it to say the first 10
presidents of the
United States presidents. To me, I would count off if you just said presidents for 3 reasons. It literally says United States. It says it is the first 10. Just presidents themselves would not be enough. So that's what I mean by think literally, write down word for word exactly what the problem gives you. And now, I'm definitely tweaking stuff this year. So I don't know 100% how I'm gonna do like quizzes and stuff.
Any student with a last name that begins with the letter D, please come to the Media Center if you did not receive an ID. If your last name begins with D and you did not receive an ID, please come to the Media Center.
Is that anybody? But I usually do a quiz with this, and I don't know if I will or not. But this is how I want your answer if I do. I don't know if this was right. I want a list and a list as your answer to number 2. So let's start with quantitative, which is my second list up there. What is a variable that is quantitative?
Age, and aggregation.
Are there any more?
Age, yeah.
I know that one of the ones that is a practice problem we're going to do today is this same question with different data. Are there any others that are quantitative? Quantitative is always going to be really easy to know that you're done. Like, it can look like a number but not be one. I guess technically they could run it out of words, but you don't ever see that. All right, so what is a categorical variable? It's another one. Just made it for a state. No, it said. Also, my pen is broken, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. What's that one? So this is where a lot of people get mixed up, and that's why I started our conversation this way. Sometimes it gives you that list, and sometimes it doesn't. So is that a variable? Yes. This might be a good stopping point to just go ahead and go get our books now.